Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Red Bull Ring as we get set in a few minutes' time for the second 45-minute free practice session here for DTM Round 5, the start of the second half of what's been a thrilling 2021 season so far. My name's Chris Hartley. I'll be talking you through the 45-minute session, and it's been a quick turnaround for the drivers and teams today. It's an earlier start to session 2 than we tended to have so far over the last couple of seasons, so only an hour and 45 minutes ago, they came back into the pits at the end of the first session, which was topped in terms of fastest lap times by the newcomer to DTM, Maximilian Paul, in the number 71 T3 Motorsport Lamborghini, the 21-year-old who's only come into motorsport in terms of car racing from a karting background a couple of seasons ago, racing in the ADAC GT Masters Championship. Well, he really made a name for himself, sending the best time of the session. In the first half of the session, he was pipped mid-session by Alex Albon and then went back out and went even quicker and did a 1:29.520 to end by just under 0.2 of a second as the quickest driver in that session, with Alex Albon coming home in second in the AlphaTauri AF Corsa Ferrari, and Nico Muller with a good session in the Team Rosberg Audi was third quickest, 1:29.707. He was only 27 thousandths quicker than Arjun Maini, who in the Team Get Speed Mercedes did a 1:29.734. He in turn was only 14 thousandths of a second quicker than Liam Lawson, who was also looking strong in the Red Bull AF Corsa. He did a 1:29.748. And then we had Kelvin Van Der Linde to complete the top 6 with a 1:29.813. Van Abra was 7th, Max Buch 8th, Timo Glock in 9th, and the championship leader, Kelvin Van Der Linde, was just inside the top 10. Now, I had a look at the compared some of the longer run times. We get the breakdown of data at the end of each free practice sessions in terms of sector times and laps for each driver, and not many drivers did extremely long runs in that first practice session, 5 or 6 laps. A couple of did more than that. But Liam Lawson did a 9-lap run. He was just about, in terms of consecutive laps, the longest run for Liam. And it bodes pretty well in terms of the setup for the race, because he might not have been the absolute quickest driver out there, but his pace over a longer run was very good. He did 9-lap run mid-session, and his best lap in that 9-lap period was a 1:29.9. That was on his second lap. His worst lap towards the end, well, in fact, it was the last lap of the session in terms of that run. He did a 1:30.5, so only lost just over half a second from his best lap to his worst during 9 laps. That's with the tyre degradation. And his average time was 1:30.1, which is very close to his best. So that tells you that he was very consistent through the laps. His best was a 1:29.9 and his average was a 1:30.1. So he seemed to be able to look after the tyres well in what was a pretty long stint. He also went back out at the end, Liam Lawson. Didn't do his longer run at the end, but he did set his 2 best lap times right at the end of the session to get him up into 5th place. So he was one of the drivers that was pretty frequently able to get into the 1:29s. Had a look at Kelvin Van Der Linde's longest run, the championship leader. He did a 6-lap run at the end of the session. His best was a 1:30.2, so 0.3 slower than Liam Lawson on that longer run. His worst was a 1:30.7 on the last lap. So whereas Liam Lawson dropped just over half a second, Kelvin Van Der Linde dropped just about half a second, slightly less, and his average was a 1:30.5. So the times weren't as good, but the tyre drop-off was about the same as Liam Lawson's. But he definitely needs to find a bit more balance. It was better in the second half. We heard him talking about the car oversteering a little bit through the first half of the session. So looking to change the balance, and they did find some improvements for the championship leader later on. The really worrying news for everybody out there that's not in the T3 Motorsport team or a fan of Maximilian Paul or Maximilian himself is that he wasn't just quick over 1 lap, he was very, very quick over a number of laps. He set the most times in that session that were underneath the 1:30 barrier. He did a 7-lap stint at the end of the session. His best was a 1:29.607. His worst was a 1:30.1. So his worst lap was, pretty much as good as Kelvin Van Der Linde's best lap during that session. And he averaged 1:29.8, so he only lost a couple of tenths of a second over a 7-lap run. And he banged in quite a few sub 1 minute 30-second laps. In fact, most of them in that session were 1:29s, high 1:29s. We did a few 1:29.6s as well. So it's not just 1 or 2 quick laps that we've seen that have really shown us how quick Maximilian Paul and the Lamborghini can be around here. It's the fact that he's been able to do it over a longer run as well. So the cars head out now, the clock underway, 45 minutes of free practice 2. About to build up with Max Scott second in the championship, carrying on the onboard cameras this weekend. He didn't do particularly long run in that first stint. It's something you might look to do this time around. He did a couple of 4 and 5 lap stints, but nothing longer than that. Marco Wittmann heading back out onto the circuit now. So we had in free practice 1, Maximilian Paul topping the times in the T3 Motorsport Lamborghini. One of the other 3 Lamborghinis run by T3 Motorsport, though, was listed as being in last place, unusually, because it was the car of Esteban Moot, who didn't complete a full lap of the circuit. He went out onto the track a couple of times, but there were sort of half laps, 3/4 laps, and back into the pits he came, so he never actually crossed the timing beam. Now, he was one of the drivers in the post-free practice press conference. Very light-hearted press conference, actually. It was good fun. We had Lucas Auer in there, we had Daniel Hankadea, Esteban Moot was in there, and Alex Albon, who got his maiden victory last time out at the Nürburgring. So it was a nice atmosphere in the press conference, pretty relaxed, and Esteban was questioned about what had been the problem in free practice. Now, it's often the case at this level of motorsport, they don't want to give too much away, the team, so he wouldn't reveal any more other than it was a technical problem, and I'm not too worried. We think we should be able to get it fixed for free practice too. So Esteban, I had a chat with him afterwards. I said, "You're looking to give them all a head start then?" He sort of laughed and said, "Yeah, hopefully not too much of a head start though. I want to get out there and get on track." So they're confident they can get the car out this time, and we'll see what he can do. But obviously the car is in good shape around here, given what we've seen from one of his 2 teammates, Maximilian Paul. This is, we've seen this couple of shots of this now, with the team trying to prep the car, because Esteban's another one to carry the onboard. Dubbed the overtaker after some of the brilliant moves he pulled off in his home race at Zolder a couple of rounds ago. And apparently he was asked about that at the press conference as well, and he said, I've seen a few people carrying the overtaker t-shirts now, so t-shirts are now on sale with it, so it's been quite nice on social media. It's quite a nice reputation to have. And apparently he put a sticker on the car at one point with the overtaker on it. That would, I guess, had been at the Nürburgring. He said, "I've taken it off now. I didn't like it. I've took it off. I don't want to jinx anything." So still working on Esteban's car to try and get him back out if they can, and to complete some laps in this session. Drivers will be familiar with the Red Bull Ring, even though we haven't been here for 3 years, because there was a test here earlier in the year. So some of the drivers and teams have been testing here. Sophia Florsch, certainly one of the drivers that's had some running in this car around here, not just in a test, but at the Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring. She did some demo laps in her Audi. Got a few more opportunities to drive the track. Sophia, delighted to be back in DTM, despite the brilliant opportunity to race at Le Mans. Unfortunately, the race didn't end well, but great experience for her, and she's nonetheless watched the DTM action from Le Mans. Pleased to be back in what's her main focus for this season, her first season in the championship. She's certainly finding some time at the end of the session, putting in, I think 2 or 3 of her best laps came in the last 10 minutes of the session, so she's getting to grips with it. Kelvin Van Der Linde has set the first meaningful time of the session, which is a 1:30.828. Not as quick as we were going earlier, but that's not a bad sort of first push lap. Timo Glock has just set a 22.6 through the first sector. That's comparatively a very good first sector time, although, as I mentioned in free practice 1, if you were watching, the first sector here only takes in turn 1 and turn 2, and turn 2 is not really a turn, it's a flat-out kink on the rise up to the hairpin at turn 3, so it's only 22 seconds of a lap. That's just under a minute and a half. It's the middle sector and the final sector, the middle sector being just under at 40 seconds, and the last sector being around 27 seconds. They're the ones you've got to get right. Sector 2 takes in the hairpin at the top of the hill at turn 3, the run through the through the right-hander at turn 4, and then that high-speed section, turn 5 into turn 6 as they come back downhill from the top of the hill through what's a roller coaster ride through turns 6 and 7 here at this 4.3 kilometre long circuit, as Kelvin Van Der Linde gets a bit quicker now, 1:30.020, watching his younger brother Sheldon Van Der Linde and Timo Glock seeing what they can do. Timo in the number 16 BMW, 1:30.063, just crossing the line, and Sheldon almost directly behind him on the circuit with a good lap as well, 1:30.3. So the two Rover Racing BMWs go second and third, Glock and Van Der Linde. Here are two cars I reckon to watch this weekend. Combined age of just 40 between Liam Lawson and Maximilian Paul. Lawson is 19, Paul is 21, two of the hotbed of young talent that we've got coming into DTM this season. Some experienced hands, but there's also a lot of exciting young talent coming into DTM this year. Phillip Ellis has just set the best first sector time. Everybody getting a bit quicker now. Timo Glock even quicker, 22.562 seconds. Just a fraction under what Phillip Ellis is doing at the moment. Watching Phillip Ellis now in the Team Winwood's Mercedes. Personal best in sector 2. This could be our first 1:29 lap, potentially. Kelvin Van Der Linde on a good lap as well, just behind Phillip Ellis. So going to be 3 good laps here. Let's see what Phillip can do first. He goes through and goes 5th quickest, 1:30.4. Didn't quite hang together at the end of the lap. Van Der Linde has been quicker through the middle of the lap than Timo Glock and goes to the top of the times with a 1:29.667. Timo Glock waiting for him to come through. Should be a decent lap as well. I think it's going to be as quick as Van Der Linde's, but it will be thereabouts. He goes through 1:30.005, almost into the 1:29s. We go second, 0.3 of a second between them. Max Scott's second in the championship into the pits, a race winner already this season, got his maiden DTM victory in the start of what's his 3rd season. He's never had consecutive seasons in the DTM, but Max Scott's in those GT cars very well indeed. One of the 6 different race winners we've had from the first 8 rounds of the championship, and 3 wins for Kelvin Van Der Linde, the championship leader, and the drivers 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th and 6th in the championship have all taken 1 win apiece. Max Scott's, Marco Wittmann, Alex Albon, Liam Lawson and Phillip Ellis. We've had 10 different drivers on the podium so far this season, the most podiums. You won't be too surprised to hear what Kelvin Van Der Linde with 4, but also Liam Lawson has had 4, but he's had more non-points finishes, including 3 from the last 4 races. Looks on good form here though, as I've explained, not just in outright pace, but long run pace as well. Sheldon Van Der Linde is on a charge, absolute best through the first sector. 10th lap on what's been preceded that. A 39.7 through the middle sector is good. It's not the absolute best. We had a 39.4 through that second sector in the first free practice session. But again, it looks like it's going to be a 1:29 lap this from Sheldon. Max Bucher's gone 4th for now. But what's Sheldon going to do with the time updates? Wait for him to cross the line momentarily, just making his way through the last part of the lap. Out through turn 10 comes Timo Glock, then Sheldon Van Der Linde, and if you can hold it together, it should be a good lap. This, it goes to the top of the times, 1:29.629, 38 thousandths of a second quicker than his older brother Kelvin Van Der Linde. So BMWs and Rover Racing in particular, 1st and 3rd, looking good. They look strong in the first free practice session as well. 1:29.629 for Sheldon, 1:29.667 for Kelvin, 38 thousandths between them, and then a 1:30.005 for Timo Glock, which is the best part of 4/10 of a second down. He's only 18 thousandths quicker than Daniel Hunkadea. Max Buch is 6th, Vincent Abril 7th, Alex Albon, who was 2nd this morning, or early afternoon, I should say, is 7th. Nico Muller 8th. He was 3rd quickest in free practice 1. Right, Rockefeller has just gone into 9th. Phillip Ellis into the pits. He's rounding out the top 10 as it stands. You can see from the times on the left-hand side of the screen, 14 of them now within a second of each other. So it's looking very competitive out there as Marco Wittmann puts in his best lap of the afternoon, 1:30.151. to go into the top 6 as well. So Wittmann up to 6. That's 3 BMWs in the top 6 now. Sheldon Van Der Linde 1st, Timo Glock 3rd. Marco Wittmann was 6th, he's now 7th because Liam Lawson does a 1:30.073. There's Lucas Auer and Daniel Hunkadea, who were both speaking in the press conference earlier on. asked all 4 drivers in that press conference what they thought was the key part of the lap. If there was a key corner or a key section you had to get right to get a really good lap here, and what their favourite sections were. And they all came back with different versions of kind of the same answer. They all said that's the high, unsurprisingly, the high-speed stuff was their favourite to drive in the middle of the lap. So they're coming back down the hill through turns 6 and 7. But interestingly, they said it's not one. Alex Albon said it's not one key corner really that you have to get right. It's a whole section because they all flow into one another in the middle of the lap there. It's very easy to make one small mistake and it costs you dearly because you upset the rhythm through one corner and then it makes you slow automatically into the next and the next after that as well. So you can lose whole sections of time. Daniel Hunkedea was also touching upon the fact that track limits will be an issue. He said that's really going to be the key this weekend because track limits is something they were really hard on in Free Practice 1, coming out between turns 9 and 10 at the end of the lap where you come over the curbs. But when they were putting all 4 wheels on the curbs, even though the right side of the car, as Liam Lawson said on his team radio in Free Practice 1, the tyres were still on the curb, not over the curb, that was being ticked off by the officials, as we've seen Marco Wittmann just a few seconds ago going into the top 2. BMW 1-2 now, 1:29.647. Got 3 drivers in the 1:29.6s, Sheldon Van Der Linde, Marco Wittmann and Kelvin Van Der Linde, who just comes into the pits. Timo Glock I can see coming in down the pit lane in front of me. You're looking at Dev Gore back in the championship after, for personal reasons, having to miss the last weekend at the Nürburgring where he was replaced by experienced GT racer and former Nürburgring 24-hour double winner Christopher Haas. Max Gotts leaving the garage, which is more or less opposite the commentary box. I overlooked the start-finish grid and he's in garage number 8, which is just opposite me. And there's Timo Glock's car being put into its garage by the Rover Racing squad in their first season of DTM. Timo Glock, one of the drivers, will be, well, I think they all love driving here. Every one of them I've spoken to earlier on love it here, love the surroundings, love the circuit, love the undulations as well. Always undulations, circuits that rise and fall, that climb uphill and downhill, they're always driver favourites. There's always something a bit more spectacular about them. Max Scott's building up speed. Liam Lawson has popped into the 1:29s now and goes even quicker on that lap. That's, again, 2 consecutive 1:29s for Liam Lawson. He's got good rhythm here, 1:29.969. Very good consistency as well. Those 2 laps were within a few thousandths of a second of each other. So Lawson goes up to 4th, but absolute best in the first sector though from Marco Wittmann with a 22.444. Again, it's early days. It's only 22 seconds of a 1:29 lap, but it's a good start to the lap nonetheless for Marco. Best that we've seen in this session, about a 10th down on the absolute best we've seen through sector 1 across the 2 free practice sessions. We'll see what he can do in the middle of the lap as Sheldon Van Der Linde comes in for a break and a check before going out to run through the next cycle. Right, Marco Wittmann in the middle of the lap at the moment, and 39.8 is not a superb time, it's not a bad time through that second sector. So 10th up through the first sector, he's a few tenths down in the middle sector, but the run through turns 8 and 9, which has been catching them all out with the track limits. And again, those messages have started to flash up on the screen, lots of them. Let's see what Marco can do here. He carried the speed. The lap times are 1:29.746. His best are 1:29.647, so it's within a tenth. It's a good lap. We'll just go back on board with Liam Lawson coming towards the end of his lap as well. Very similar to Marco Wittmann's time this, so it should be around about 1:29. Mid 1:29, high 1:29, but actually he lost a bit of time through the last section again, 1:30.085. Alex Albon right over the curbs as he takes the Ferrari out of turn 10. Good start to the lap, okay in the middle, and okay, but not spectacular through sector 3. So low 1:30 for him as well. And Esteban Moot fans, praise be, he's gone out, he's done a lap, and 14th place. 1:30.436. So Esteban Moot on the track. They've got the car fixed and it looks pretty good. I will not read out all of the messages that relate to track limits to you, but the screen is filled with them here in the commentary box there. It must be 20. And lots of them, again, turns 9 and 10, but a few of them more and more appearing up at turn 3 now, but the hairpin, so they're being a bit strict on the exit to there. Don't let the car drift out too wide. Don't use more than the circuit to get the power down early, otherwise you're going to start losing lap times. And 1 or 2 in turn 1 again. Esteban Moot said turn 1 was the one he was finding particularly tricky to get right, or had in the past. So replay of Marco Wittmann pushing a bit too hard track limits, but not with an advantage there, because he had 2 wheels through the gravel. Remember, they have 3 sets of new Michelin tyres in terms of slick tyres to use across the course of the weekend as well. They want to be saving those for qualifying in the race, so using older tyres. It's also worth making the point that Maximilian Paul, because it's his first weekend in DTM, he gets a couple of extra sets of tyres. So in your first DTM weekend, you get 5 sets of tyres, which means he's got a couple spare over the others. That's still not, you know, huge amounts of tyres. It's 5 to last 4 competitive sessions, 2 qualifying to 2 races. But it does mean he can put some new tyres on in free practice if he wants, and that will be an advantage. Last time at the Nürburgring, we saw Michael Ammermuller, who was in his first DTM weekend, was able to put new slicks on for one of the practice sessions and went very quick, was in the top 4 in both free practice sessions, but everybody caught him up then when they got their new tyres on for qualifying the next day. So it is no doubt impressive stuff from Maximilian Paul, but the tyres coming into effect. Here's his teammate Esteban Moot on a charge as ever. Marco Wittmann's on another good lap, or was. He's just a bit of time actually in the second set to Marco, so not sure he will improve. Esteban Moot doesn't improve his overall position with a 130.5. Got a 10th down on his best, but just trying to get the laps in here, I suspect. Good lap forming up at the start for Marco Wittmann, but fallen away a little bit. But Max Gott's consistent in all 3 sectors with a 129.933. So that is now 6 drivers in the 129s. Liam Lawson's on his personal best lap, and if he can find just 37 thousandths of a second, he'll go ahead of Max Gotts and back into the top 4, which he does. So Liam Lawson with another quick lap here. This is looking very impressive indeed. Through turn 1, he heads then. Take a ride on board with Liam Lawson. There is the view from the top of the hill up at turn 3. And what a backdrop this is. Is there a more spectacular backdrop to a race circuit in Europe, in the world? Question mark. Can't be many. Certainly not in Europe. That Fuji is pretty spectacular, I guess, but that's beautiful, isn't it? It's a wonderful place to come, this. First time DTM has been here since 2018. DTM was actually the first big major event to run at the circuit once it was reopened as the Red Bull Ring 10 years ago in 2011. And first raced here back in 2001. We've had 15 DTM races here over the years. Phillip Ellis into the top 5 with the 129.865, makes it 7 drivers in the 129s. Max Gotts is on a slightly better lap here. Yeah, the car rattling over the curbs through turn 9. Same at turn 10, over the line, and he goes to the top of the times with a 129.546. Terrific lap then from Max Gotts. It looks like he's keeping his foot in for another quick run as well. The best time earlier from Maximilian Paul was a 129.520, so that is only 26 thousandths slower than that time from Max Gotts. Change of tyres for Marco Wittmann. 1 or 2 of them might be just having a run or 2 on newer rubber now, just to see how the car feels once that rubber is changed. So the car's going over a second quicker in qualifying 1 on Saturday at Nürburgring than they were during the course of free practice on the Friday once they got the new tyres on. But as it affects the handling of the car, it might be worth getting at least a couple of laps in, just to bed the tyres in, but also just get a feel for what the car will be like when it is in proper qualifying trim. Phillip Ellis, personal best through the first 2 sectors. Max Gotts is a 10th down on him, but he's had his flying lap already. And Phillip Ellis about to improve upon 6th place here, I think. It goes over the line, goes straight to the top of the times with that, with a 129.530. 16 thousandths quicker than Max Gotts, who went slowly through the middle sector, so he's not going to improve again on this one. Whether he bats off or whether it's traffic, not sure, but Max Gotts He's not going to get another quick lap in here. Phillip Ellis will stay at the top of the times for now, 1:29.530 in this second free practice session of the day. Max Scott stays out. It's 1:32 because he backed off at the end of the lap. So 99 thousandths of a second, just under a tenth of a second, covering the top three drivers, Ellis, Gotts and Sheldon Van Der Linde. Riding on board now, 22 Mercedes of Lucas Auer. He said in the press conference, for me personally, and you can see him rattling over the curbs there, for me personally, said Lucas Auer, this is the highlight of the season. Home race, loves the circuit. He's got friends and family here supporting him. He's described his first half of the season as a bit up and down, some highs, some lows, but we need now more consistency. This is looking like a very strong lap. That's a terrific second sector, 39.053, best of the day so far. But overall, 1:29.593. Good enough to put him third, not quite at the top of the times. It's so close, though. There's 63 thousandths of a second between the top three, 99 thousandths of a second between the top four drivers. There's Maximilian Paul. He's spent the last few seasons, including this season, racing in the GT Masters Championship in a Lamborghini this year with Tier 3 Motorsport. 2 years prior to that, he's been in an Audi with the team. There's Phillip Ellis into the pits, top of the times currently. So fastest driver on the road at the moment is Lucas Auer. That 1:29.593. Anybody else going quickly? Liam Lawson's on a longer run here, but he's still going quick at 1:30.297 last time around. So he's not, again, not losing much time here. He's managing the tyres well, the car managing the tyres well. Alex Albon said the Ferrari around here handles really well on the curbs. He was actually asked about, you know, the differences between driving a Formula 1 car around here and driving a GT car around here. Obviously, the speed is the key thing, but the interesting thing he said, Alex Albon, was that you can use the curbs a lot more with these cars than you can with Formula 1. You have to be a little bit careful on the curbs in a Formula 1 car. He said, actually, that opens up the circuit. It makes it really exciting to drive, so he's loving it as well. There's his teammate, Liam Lawson, just coming through, moving ahead of Nico Muller's Audi, which at the moment is down in 14th place, but building up speed for another run. So a few drivers in the pits now, but we've still got Max Gotts and Lucas Auer going quickly. Max Gotts backed off on the last lap, but that one was a 1:29.677, so that's almost as good as his best. And a 1:29.9 for Lucas Auer means he's done 2 sub 1 minute 30 laps on the bounce. Liam Lawson a low 1:30 on that one, 1:30.111, and a 1:30.697 for Dev Gore as a personal best for Dev. And there he goes at the top of the hill through turn 3 as he learns the circuit. Personal best through the first sector on that lap as well. He's got a clean track in front of him. About half the cars in the pits at the moment, so there'll be no issues with getting a lap in. Figure out who we've not seen yet, and 19 cars that have set a lap time. Who are we missing? Argemini hasn't been out. So 19 cars have set a lap time, but no Argemini yet. Hasn't been out at all, not even for a recce lap. Name hasn't appeared on the timing screen, so that'll be a bit disconcerting after what was a very good first practice session. Practice tyre change in the AF Corsa crew. Was that a stall, or was he just told to wait? I think he was just told to wait. Started to go Liam Lawson, then was held back. In the garage next to him, his teammate Alex Albon is about to head back out as well. I can see Lucas Auer coming down the pit lane. So back on board with Liam Lawson. Max Buch in Muka Motorsport Mercedes up into 8th place now. Team boss Peter Muka in racing action this weekend as well. So he is competing in the DTM Revival race, an old Zach Speed Capri, a turbo Capri, with his son, the ex-DTM racer, Stefan Muka. And the car was quickest in the first free practice session this morning, which bodes well. So team boss Peter Muka getting some action. Here's a replay of this practice tyre change from the team at AF Corsa. We've been the team to beat in terms of pit stops, certainly at the start of the season, but then Liam started to go, then they screamed at him on the radio, don't go yet. We just want to check that left rear. Not completely 100% happy with it. Checked it, seemed okay, and out he went with a lollipop put down just in time to stop him heading back out onto the circuit. Anyway, all seems well now. Fans in the grandstands already getting an early appetite of the action, early appetite for the beer as well, by the looks of it. They can see themselves on the big screen. And for the first time, for a long time, the first time since the worldwide pandemic hit, we have fans back in the paddock here at the DTM this weekend. Something else exciting for them to look forward to over the next couple of days here. It's going to be on-track action, demo laps from the DTM electric car, which made its debut at the end of last season. It was unveiled at Hockenheim, went out onto the circuit. For me and everybody else that saw it, it was quite a surreal experience because obviously you can't really hear it coming, and then this missile appears out of nowhere. It's so quick, over 1,200 horsepower. And it's going to be doing some demo laps, but not any normal demo laps, because the DTM electric car, before each of the races this weekend, is going to be on track. There won't be a driver in the car. It's going to be remotely driven. So it's a project which we'll talk about more tomorrow, but it's been in development for only a few months. They've got it up and running, and DTM Trophy champion Tim Heidemann is going to drive the car remotely from a state-of-the-art simulator 80-odd kilometers away over at Graz, and he'll be driving it remotely. So the car will be doing laps on the track without a driver, which is going to be pretty spectacular, maybe a little bit surreal as well. So we'll talk more about that. That will be part of our race coverage show tomorrow on television. So into the pits has come Liam Lawson after a successful longer run. He went back out and has been called straight back in. So they're still checking that left rear that they weren't 100% happy with. So this slightly upsets the rhythm of what he was trying to do in terms of going out and having a programme of number of laps to target, but safety is key. So they've got the Red Bull AF Corsa back in. Home circuit, of course, for Red Bull. And for the team, and for Alex Albon and Liam Lawson, although they're not Austrian nationals, the only Austrian in the field. We'll recall this is absolute home races at Lucas Hour, but for the team, for the sponsor, it's absolutely a home event, and a very special weekend it will be. A very important weekend as well, for all manner of reasons. For Liam Lawson particularly, just to get stuck back in this fight was the big talking point at the Nürburgring. Was well, he had bad luck with race one, as I mentioned earlier, with Marcus Winkelhock trying a move on him which didn't pay off and sent Liam into a spin. He then picked up 2 punctures during the second race at the Nürburgring, but a safety car got him back into it. He was still on the lead lap, and then he went on a charge to try and get through the field. Tried to overtake Kelvin Van Der Linde towards the end of the lap. It didn't pay off. They came together. Van Der Linde was sent into his teammate, Mike Rockenfeller, and that's how quickly motorsport can change, as Alex Albon goes way out wide, gets that all wrong. It's back onto the circuit, but within a second or two, it was the end of the race for 2 of the AB Sportsline cars, with Kelvin and Mike both into the pits and into retirement. And Liam Lawson then picked up a penalty and picked up another puncture after standing on the brakes as well. So we get another luck of Alex Albon's very wide moment there. That's coming out of turn 10.
I don't know if there's a lot of damage on the right.
Sounds like Alex limping back to the pits, which is going to be a long way, because it was right at the end of the lap that happened, and he's got damage. Is there a puncture possibly? So I'm not sure if there's more damage elsewhere, but the front of the car looks low set, doesn't it? Front left. So I think he's going to have to pull off the track, which he is doing now. Shortcutting through this this link here if you can, and trying to get the car back. We'll get a closer look when it gets into the pits. It might just be the bodywork, or it might be a puncture. It looked a bit low. That tyre, yeah, the tyre's down. Front left tyre's punctured. Now, whether that's a result of going out wide, which it might be, or perhaps more probably, it's what sent him wide in the first place, I suspect. Yeah, it was. So the tyre was what caused him to go wide in the first place, off the rim. Now, whether that's contacts or something earlier on in the lap, but that sort of hinders his session as well, Alex Albon. currently in 11th place. 15 minutes or so on the clock remains. Phillip Ellis and Max Scotts, the top two, are back on track. Lucas Auer, who's third, is in the pits. Sheldon Van Der Linde, he's back on track, he's fourth. And then Wittmann and Kelvin Van Der Linde, fifth and sixth, are in the pits currently. Dawson's gone back out, and Alex Albon smartly brings the car back in here. Quick thinking to shortcut the lap, use that little link road, and get back here much quicker than he would have otherwise been able to do. Driving the car very slowly, not just because he's got no handling, but to make sure there's no further damage from that flailing tyre onto the bodywork and under the wheel arch. So hopefully that's going to be it, but it looks worse than it really is, because he's gone slow and he's been offline. He's picked up lots of spare rubber, loose rubber off the circuit. But nonetheless, a bit of a worrying moment. That the track temperature is really hot here. It's not a massively hot day. It's 21.8 degrees, the air temperature, but the track temperature is 42 degrees. The sun beaming directly upon it. Lots of rubber been laid down by the other support sessions as well. So Alex Albon in trouble. I'm going to have to inspect the car, whether it'll get back out or not. Not sure. I suspect not. He's getting out now, so that might be the end of the run for Alex. Good first session. Not quite so successful in the second session, but better it happens now than when it really matters in qualifying tomorrow morning. So Alex out of the car. There is Esme Hawkey. Now, Esme had a longish stint in the first part of qualifying. Then she came in and I don't think she went back out at the end of the session, or at least not much. So I wondered if she got a bit of an issue with the car, but all has been okay so far. How many laps has she done? She's done plenty of laps, 17 laps. Only Liam Lawson has done more laps in the session so far. Still haven't seen Arjun Maini on track, so he's clearly got an issue. And we've only actually had 7 laps from Daniel Hungadea. Not many laps from Phillip Ellis either, 11. Most of them have done 15, 16, 17 laps. As Alex Albon now watches on. He's keeping the helmet on, so there is hope that they might be able to get him back in the session, I guess, as his teammate Liam Lawson goes third quickest with a 1:29.562. That's the top 4 now, all in the same tenth of a second of each other. 1:29.5s for Ellis, Gotts, Lawson and Auer, and only 63 thousandths covering the top 4, only 70 thousandths covering the rest of them. Max Gotts now promoted to the top of the times, though, with a 1:29.417. Personal best in sectors 1 and 2, absolute best in sector 3. Good lap from Maximilian Paul as well. He's got the absolute best in the middle of the lap with a 39.3. So it's all changed just as I read it out, as Phillip Ellis back on track, but it's Max Gotts who's gone quicker than him now by a tenth of a second. And then it's all very close behind with, as I say, just 67 thousandths of a second between Ellis, Lawson, Auer and Sheldon Van Der Linde. 1:29.6s for Max Paul and Marco Wittmann, Kelvin Van Der Linde and Max Bucher all grouped together as well. And then Timo Glock, 1:29.989, a little bit away from them, but in the top 10. Right, Paul, personal best through the first sector, which was a 22.6. That's 3 tenths down on the absolute best first sector, though, so not necessarily going to be a brilliant lap, this. 39.3 is the best middle sector time set by Liam Lawson, and Max Gotts is the quickest of all in the third sector. So nobody's had the setup to be able to hook all 3 sectors together and be quickest in all 3 sectors. That's been switched between drivers, but it's very, very close between them. Liam Lawson, top of the times, as you can see from the screen now, with a 1:29.275. Absolute best lap of the day. That 1:29.275, that is 0.142 seconds quicker than second place. So having said how close the gaps were, just as I finished saying that, started to spread out now, and Paul goes second with a 1:29.375. He really got that together in the middle of the lap, didn't he? Yeah, 39.3 in the middle of the lap, and a 27.3, which was really good at the end of the lap as well. So even though he dropped time at the start of the lap, Max Paul got 2 tenths back through the rest of the lap to go exactly 1 tenth down on Liam Lawson. So it's the Ferrari ahead of the Lamborghini. Ferrari and Lamborghini looking good here. Mercedes next with Gotts, Ellis and Auer, 3rd, 4th and 5th. BMWs are 6th and 7th with Sheldon Van Der Linde and Marco Wittmann. And the top Audi is Kelvin Van Der Linde in 8th place currently, as we go back on board with Liam Lawson, quickest man on the track at the moment. 22.4 through the first set. It's not an absolute best, but it's pretty good. It's within half a tenth of the best, so he started the lap well. He ends the lap really well as well. Absolute best in the final sector. Overall, it's not his best lap, 1:29.6, but it's another good lap here. Takes lots of curb coming out of turn 1, through this kink at turn 2, still accelerating up to 260 kilometers an hour before they hit the brakes. Down to first gear for turn 3. On the exits where you've got to watch track limits, he's nowhere near going beyond the curves, but I think possibly because he's backed off now on this lap. Max Paul, personal best last time around, 1:29.375. Second, Max got in third, 1:29.417. And then Ellis an hour, 1:29.5s. And the next 4 drivers all in the 1:29.6s. We've got just under 10 minutes left to go in the session. So it's not looking too strong for Audi. We're a little bit worried, I think, that the circuit might not suit the Audi, the high-speed segments. Kelvin Van Der Linde, 1:29.6. He's not massively off the pace. He's 8th, but he's only 0.39 seconds away from the best time as Esme Hawkey pushes on. A sub-40-second sector 2 is pretty good, and Esme with a 1:30.5 on that lap gets to within a tenth of her best lap of the session, stays in 18th place. 1.1 seconds covering the top 18 in the session. So AF course are getting ready for Liam Lawson and another practice pit stop. Out to Sportsline as we watch the Ferrari come in. We'll be hoping for better things tomorrow. Got a good record here, Ab, to run the championship leader Kelvin Van Der Linde. Got a podium with Laurent Aiello in the first DTM event at Spielberg 20 years ago, back in 2001. And it was the A1 ring back then. That was with the Audi TTR. Oliver Jarvis in 2011 took the first podium for AB Sportsline on the newly reopened Red Bull ring. And in total, they've had good success here, victories for the team with Eduardo Matara, Matthias Ekstrom has triumphed here a couple of times. Nico Muller, when he raced for AB Sportsline, had podiums as well. Very good weekend in 2017, victory and filling the podium on team principal Thomas Biermeier's 40th birthday at the time that weekend, as Maximilian Paul heads back out. AB Sportsline have raced here 12 times and achieved 3 victories and 11 podiums, but it might be an uphill battle here. There's a replay of tyre change for Max Gotts. Have to work so swiftly. They're looking at turning these pit stops around in less than 7 seconds if they can. And 6 to 6.5 seconds, really quick pit stops once they get into the races. It's so important to get that right. If you lose 2 seconds in a pit stop, which doesn't sound a lot, when they are lapping within tenths of a second of each other, hundredths of a second of each other, if you're 2 tenths quicker than the driver you're trying to catch, it's 5 laps just to get 1 second back, 10 laps to get 2 seconds back. It's a huge amount, as Marco Wittmann goes 5th, having put in the absolute best first sector time and a personal best in second sector. Vincent Labral's into the top 10 as well now, in 8th place. So we're seeing some qualifying type runs here. Esme Hawkey's improved up to 16th, 1:30.320. Sponsored by Rocket. She's got a Rocket e-bike here this weekend to try and get around the circuit, which is a sensible move because it is very hilly and a pretty hot day. So Esme, first time here as it is with most circuits for Esme this year. 1:30.320, just over a second adrift at the fastest time. She'll find another couple of tenths. She'll edge towards the top 10 here. Lamborghini pushing wide, not a team with huge amounts of experience, T3 Motorsport. Very young driver lineup as well. Esme's in her early 20s. New boy Maximilian Paul, 21. Esteban Luke, just 19 years old. A young and exciting team. Esme on that lap, 1:30.4. Good consistency, just a tenth away from her best lap of the session. Practice tyre change, just not that rapid for Max Paul and T3 Motorsport. Something to work on. key to do so. So Marco Wittmann is the quickest driver on the track at the moment. He was. Vincent Abreuil's just gone fourth. So fourth place for Vincent with a 1:29.455. They're both lapping in the 1:29s. Phillip Ellis is lapping in the mid 1:29s as well, as Maximilian Paul comes to a halt with just over 5 minutes to go. So where has it all gone wrong there? Is that, no, he's just had the tyre change. Is he worried that it's not on properly? Team are sprinting back down the pit lane. That would be my first thought. One of those wheels hasn't gone on properly. It did look like they were having an issue, front left in particular. Whether he's felt something or the team said, no, come back, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure it's all connected properly. But either way, best to stop there than to go onto the track. But it's not what they're looking at. Looking at the engine cover coming off, so we'll see. But a bit of a concern there. T3 Motorsport already had lots of work cut out to get Esteban Moot into the session, having had this quick turnaround between Free Practice 1 and Free Practice 2. He's 11th now, Esteban, with a 1:29.832. And we missed all of that first Free Practice session. Vincent Abreuil's on another decent lap here. It's going to be another 1:29 for Vincent. Could be in the mid 1:29s. It's not his absolute best so far, but it's not far away. If he can knock it together here, could be another good one. Through he goes. No, 1:29.7, not quite as good as he had. 3/10 down. Just under 4 minutes to go in the session, and Max Gotts is heading back out onto the track. Third quickest overall. Fifth quickest overall, Phillip Ellis in the pits. And then 7th, 8th and 9th, Lucas Auer and the two Van Der Lindes all in the pits. Although I could see an AB Sportsline car through the window heading down the pit lane, which might be Kelvin. Could be Mike Rockenfeller, but no, I think Mike's already on track, isn't he? Yes, he is. So it will be, I think, Kelvin going back onto the circuit. Or was it Mike coming in? No, it was Mike coming in. Kelvin Van Der Linde is going back out, though. There he is. It was just a fairly quick turnaround, so he's going to get a chance to put 1 or 2 more laps in here. See what he can do. Comes out with clean air. Spectacular vista in the background. So of the top 6, it's only Phillip Ellis that's stationary in the pits at the moment. It's a pretty busy circuit. Most of them on track. We've still got no sign of Arjun Maini, so it looks like he's going to miss all of the running here in the second Free Practice session, but at least he's got a good session under his belt from Free Practice 1 when he was 4th quickest. Track limits issues continue with turn 9 and turn 10 in particular being the standout areas that they're watching. They're pretty much all being called out by it now. Could be a big part of qualifying tomorrow if lap times are taken away from them. Drivers have had their warnings, and it's obviously something they've been red hot on this weekend. Maximilian Paul is going back out, so check the car over, and the Lamborghini heading back out. So we're right on board with the onboard cameras this weekend. He's going to be Kelvin Van Der Linde. We've seen action from Max Gotts and Esteban Moot and Liam Lawson as well. So there you go, out for the Lamborghini, having been checked over. Sophia Florsch has just come in, but it's going to be a quick stop this. Practice pit stop, lights up the rear tyres, and Sophia Florsch, who said that this is just about one of her favourite circuits, heads out onto the track now. 1:30.496, her best time. No real improvements at the moment in terms of lap times. And only Max Buch in the 1:29s last time around, a 1:29.9. But in fairness, lots of them in and out of the pits at the end of this session. Max Gotts went out really briefly, coming back into the garage. Liam Lawson is in the pits. That'll be the end of his run. He's not going to have less than a lap time remaining now, so he's not going to have time to put in another quick lap in. And Dev Gorin also for Team Rosberg. So it looks like Liam Lawson is going to end the session quickest in the Ferrari with a 1:29.275, which is about 3/10 quicker than the pace set in the first Free Practice session this morning. Max pulls out there, but was slow through the first sector as he gets going again. And I'm not sure he's going to get back. He might just get back in time to get one more lap in to the start-finish line. Vincent Abreuil going through. That was a slowish lap, but this he might be able to push on this one. It'll be his last chance across the line with about 35 seconds left on the clock. So of the front runners, of the top 8, you've only got Maximilian Paul and Vincent Abril, 2nd and 4th out on track. Marco Wittmann's about to rejoin them, but won't get another lap in. Currently in 6th place. Best BMW for the driver, 3rd in the championship standings. Max Paul won't get another quick lap in because he's headed straight back into the pits. So there'll be no late changes at the top of the order, I don't think, here. With nobody on track at the moment going particularly quickly. Replay of Marco Wittmann when he came into the pits. Left rear, we can watch being changed. Over to the front left. Sparking away. Off it comes, and down he's dropped, and away he went. Only 6 members of the team can work on the car. Have to be quick, but not panicked as well. Sophia Florsch back in. Checkered flag now waves. Esteban Moot crosses the line with a fairly good lap, 1:30.017, a couple of tenths away from his best. But at least he's got some running. And then the session, it looks like an 11th place, Esteban, of the 19 cars that have taken part in this 45 minutes here. Kelvin Van Der Linde back in, 9th place, all he can manage in that session with a 1:29.667 as his best lap of the session. The pace has generally been quicker in this second session. The track has been a little bit quicker. Kelvin did a 1:30.2 in that first session. I'd say he's made more gains than others. He's made more than half a second gain. I'd say the track is 3 tenths quicker than it was for the first practice session. So even though he's only 9th, I think he'll feel a bit more pleased about that. And there is one change at the end with Max Buch putting in his best lap of the session, absolute best through the final sector, 1:29.554. So Max, 7th place. And that puts him just behind Marco Wittmann by 50 thousandths of a second. So Liam Lawson is going to top the times by a 10th of a second. There's the results of free practice 2. Maximilian Paul in 2nd place. Impressive stuff, but remember, he's got more new tyres than the others today. Max Gott's in 3rd place. Looks very solid on long runs and quick pace. Vincent Abril comes home in 4th. Phillip Ellis 5th. Marco Wittmann looking solid in 6th after not really pushing the times in that first free practice. Then Lucas Auer, Sheldon and Kelvin Van Der Linde in there as well. And just in front of them, 7th place, right at the end of the session, going to Max Buch with that 1:29.554. So there in 11th place, we had Esteban Moot, Timo Glock in 12th, Daniel Hungadea 13th, Alex Albon 14th, Mike Rockenfeller 15th, and then Esme Hawking, Nico Muller back in 17th, Dev Gore 18th, Sophia Florsch 19th, and no appearance in that session from Arjun Maini. That's it from free practice from Spielberg for today. From me, Chris Hartley, and the team, we look forward to your company for the race and qualifying sessions tomorrow. Bye for now.